Okay, in this video, we're going to be talking about adaptations, and specifically, we're going to go over some types of adaptations as well as go through some examples. So this should be fun. All right, so first up, let's just talk about what is an adaptation. Well, basically, an adaptation is any feature that an organism has that helps it to survive and reproduce. So if you take a look at the pictures that are here, camouflage, right, is a type of adaptation that allows an animal to survive because maybe it helps it be hidden from predators, or maybe it helps it to be hidden from its prey. Maybe it helps it to go for long periods of time without water, right? And then all of those things are going to help the organism to reproduce, because the longer you survive, the greater your chances are of being able to reproduce. There are three main types of adaptations that we're going to be covering. They are structural adaptations, behavioral adaptations, and functional adaptations. And we're going to cover each of those in the next couple slides. All right, so first of all, let's talk about structural adaptations. So a structural adaptation is a physical feature. It's something that allows the organism to survive and reproduce, and a lot of times it's something that you can see when you look at the organism. So examples include, and this is definitely some good stuff to add into your notes, camouflage or mimicry. So having the ability to blend in with the surroundings or appear as though you are another object or organism are examples of structural adaptations. Appendages, and there are lots of kinds, right? We have arms, we have legs, we have tails, we have wings, we have tentacles, we have all sorts of types of appendages. So all of those would be examples of structural adaptations that help the organisms in a myriad of different ways to move, to grab things, to catch prey, to fly. Those would all be appendages. Different ways that they move. So like a snake slithering along its belly has special muscles that allow it to do that. So suction cups on the toes that allow it to move. Those are all structural adaptations. Looking at the ways that animals eat. So do they catch prey with hands, with fingers that close? Do they use sharp teeth? Do they have a special type of beak? Do they have special suckers that allow them to grasp onto things? So thinking about the ways that animals eat will allow you to discover some of their structural adaptations. Maybe they have a long, sticky tongue. The ways that they see, do they have articulating eyes that can look in all directions? Do they see in color? Do they have binocular vision that allows them to zero in on prey? Do they have their eyes on the sides of their head that let them look for predators? So all of those would be examples of structural adaptations. Features that allow them to attract a mate, maybe beautiful plumage like you see on these birds here, or maybe they have the ability to change the color of their skin so that they can look more attractive to a mate. Those would be features that allow them to reproduce. All right, so behavioral adaptations. So behavioral adaptations are ways that an organism acts that allows it to survive and reproduce. So I don't know if you've ever seen videos of these guys chirping, right? Carrying all her babies on her back helps them to survive. Schooling together and flocking in a school of fish here. Those are ways that animals have behaviors that allow them to survive and reproduce. Other examples include migration, so moving to warmer or cooler areas during different parts of the season. Hunting strategies that allow them to maximize their ability to catch prey. Maybe they hunt as a pack like wolves. Maybe they sneak up on their prey like a lion. So these hunting strategies are all behavioral adaptations. Herding, schooling, flocking, which is, safety in numbers. Mating rituals, which I'm going to show you one of those in a second. Child rearing behaviors like you see in this possum. And warning calls. Those are all examples of behavioral adaptations. And the last item is behavioral mimicry. So let's take a look at a couple of videos to illustrate some of these behavioral adaptations.
In the great island of New Guinea, there are 42 different species of birds of paradise, each more bizarre than the last. this forest is so rich that nourishing food can be gathered very quickly. That leaves the male six-plumed bird of paradise with time to concentrate on other matters, like tidying up his display area.
So in this case, mating rituals include the behaviors of attracting a mate by dancing or making
Everything
calls,
must be speckled.
also through nest building.
All is ready.
Okay, this next video I want to show you is one of my favorites. It's regarding an organism called the mimic octopus, and it's pretty spectacular.
Known until it was spotted, first by fishermen off the coast of Indonesia in the 1990s. It looked like an octopus, but it could morph its shape in an instant to appear as seemingly any animal around it. At first, no one had any idea what it was.
The first time I saw it, I just was blown away. You couldn't get a more spectacular animal. It really is the pinnacle of wizardry.
Biologist Mark Norman was the first scientist to study this seemingly shapeless creature. He named it the mimic octopus.
The mimic octopus makes itself look like a living, moving animal. So it pulls all its arms around behind its body and swims along like a poisonous flatfish called a banded sole. In other cases, if it's getting attacked, it puts 6 arms down a hole and raises the other 2 arms to look like a poisonous sea snake that has bands along its body. If that's not enough, it'll swim along looking like a poisonous lionfish with these banded arms looking like the banded spines that come off these very deadly fish.
So far, 15 separate species are known to be in the mimic octopus act, and Norman is not always sure exactly what the mimic is doing. He observed this mimic scuttling along the sea bottom, looking something like a furry turkey with human legs.
Sometimes it's hard when you watch a mimic octopus doing what it does to interpret what's going on. It's a bit like looking at ink spots in a psychiatrist's office going, I don't know what that is. It could be a piano, it could be a fridge. So you get 3 or 4 divers together and you'll argue all night trying to work out what we think it was mimicking.
Where did nature's greatest actor come from?
Such a great example of a behavioral adaptation. Okay, so our last slide is going to be about functional adaptations, which most students find to be the most difficult of the 3. So let's take a look at some functional adaptations. So these are internal biochemical mechanisms that allow an organism to survive and reproduce. So think most of the time we're talking about biochemistry here. So the production of venom or poison. So the difference between venom and poison is this. Venom is injected like a scorpion or a bee or the bite from a snake, whereas poison is ingested, like if you were to lick this poison dart frog, it would poison you, okay? Venom injected, poison is ingested. The musk or scent production, like that of a skunk, but this could also be like marking territory or scent glands that allow for finding a mate or alerting a mate that mating season has begun. So those are functional adaptations. Hibernation triggers, so internal biochemical mechanisms that tell an organism it's time to hibernate. Internal body signals like hunger, thirst, the drive to find a mate, temperature controls, so sweating or shivering. These are internally controlled adaptations that would be considered functional adaptations. Okay, so now you're going to answer a couple of questions on the next section about adaptations.